Hi everyone. So today I have a Medeco Bilevel. The Bilevel is part of the M3 series from Medeco. So you can see on the front here, it's got the M3 logo, but with the B on it designating that this is the Bilevel version. The first thing you're going to notice in the plug is that the sidebar groove does not go all the way through. So on this particular version of a Medeco, the sidebar does not interact with the key pins. So this is kind of the low security version of the Medeco M3. That being said, it's designed to be part of an M3 system. So when you look at the key, it does say M3 on it. It does have the angled cuts. So if you inserted this into a regular Medeco M3, it would rotate the pins. And so this is intended to be used as a lower security lock integrated into that broader system. So you could use the same key for the high security M3s and the lower security bilevels. And the same key would work for all of the locks in the system. Now, one thing that makes this the M3 is you'll see that there's a ridge right here, and that is going to interact with a plunger or a slider, I guess, something like that, that's inside the plug. So I'm just going to show that here real quick. So you can see when you insert this, it does hit that. Oh, and if it doesn't pop out, it does push it in, and it pushes it into a specific depth. Sorry, it's popping out there. Okay. So it pushes it into a specific depth. On this one, it does not push it all the way. So there are multiple different depths that the keys can push this to, and that will be determined by the specific sidebar in this lock. So it gives, I guess, some additional options in terms of having different key control type things, in addition to the rotation of the pins and the height of the pins. You can also have different depths on the slider. So you can see right here, when you slide this, it does move those two, I guess, tabs that are right there. And that will allow the sidebar here, the sidebar to fall in. So you can see it's got two little divots. Those will match up with the tabs on the slider. And so when the slider is at the correct depth, this will fall in and allow the cord to be turned, or the plug to be turned. In the housing, there is a ridge for that sidebar. So it's not, it is interactive. The sidebar does have to fall in for this to turn, even though it's not controlled by the orientation of the keys at all. And I'll just show that real quick here. So sidebar sits right there. It's not able to fall in, and then right there it does fall in, and now you can turn. So that's how that functions. From a picking standpoint, you just have to wait until it starts binding and then push it in all the way. It's not too difficult to deal with. In terms of the pins on this lock, so there are a number of security pins here, and the tolerances on this lock are actually very good. So it does put up quite a bit of a challenge. So this particular one, and I guess they're pinned somewhat randomly from the factory, I've got barrels in number 6 and number 4. I've got this kind of spooled or serrated type of pin right here in number 5. It's not a spool, but it's got a couple really deep and wide serrations in it. I've got a mushroom right here in number 3, and then 1 and 2 are standard. So combination of the good tolerances and the security pins do make this a somewhat challenging pick. There is no milling in the plug here, as you can see. So the barrels don't do like the full interaction, getting stuck in milling, that sort of thing, but still presented some difficulties. If you follow the Lockpickers United belt ranking, this lock is currently rated as blue, which puts it on the high end of standard pin tumbler locks. It was rated green for a long time, and I always thought it was probably the toughest green lock you could pick if you wanted to pick one there. But it's been upgraded to blue. Even at blue, it's pretty tough. I feel like this is a really challenging lock, especially for someone who is somewhat new to lock picking. So we'll go ahead and put this in the vise and get it picked, and you can kind of see how everything works. But yeah, it's a basic pin tumbler, lift to shear, hit the check pin once you're in a full set. But again, dealing with those security pins and the good tolerances there make it somewhat challenging. So with that, we'll move on to the next section. Okay, here's my Medeco Bilevel. Key works. I'm using a pretty deep hook here because there's some high lifts around some really low lifts here. And I'm going to start all the way in the back. That was 2 and 3. I felt binding. Going back to the rearmost pins now. Okay, that felt like 6. That was 4 right there. Okay, that was 2. I think that's 4 again. It feels really hard. There, I got something out of that. But maybe 2 dropped there. Okay. Get some, maybe not. I thought I was getting some counter rotation in that one. Oh, okay. I got some lifts and clicks out of that one on 6. Okay, now 1 is binding. Okay, I got a good click out of 1. I got a little bit of core movement. I'm just gonna check that the plunger doesn't need to be depressed here. Okay, it's not. Sometimes it gets a little caught up on that. Okay, so I'm guessing two need to be lifted. No, 3, no. Okay, I'm guessing I am in a full set because these 2 barrels are in milling. So I just need to get these out here. So I'm trying to jiggle test these barrels. I think it's 4. Okay, there we go. That was 4. And now let's see if I can do this check pin. Okay, there we go. So I got a little movement after I knocked 4 out of the milling, and then just had to tap the check pin, and we are open. There we go. conveniently, I can get this one through the stacks. And I'm just going to try to do that without launching springs everywhere. It's got this weird cap strip on it that's like split in one spot. So I can actually pull this out fairly easily. I just got to cover this to make sure that I don't launch any springs. There's my cap strip. One spring stuck to my thumb. Okay, so I'm going to take these springs out. And I'm going to rotate it back so I can get these pins out here. So I think, let me take these out first. I don't think anything will relock. Okay, so there's the driver on 6. That's the driver on 4, or sorry, 5. That's 4, it's another barrel. Three is a mushroom. Oh, looks like one wants to come out. Okay. One is a standard, and now I just need 2. 2 is a standard. So 1 is silver because it's an anti-drill. Okay. Now I should be able to get key pins out. Actually, I'm gonna unscrew this and I'll pull it out through the front. Here we go. So there is the sidebar. The sidebar is only controlled by the check pin, which is right there. That was one of my drivers. Oh, okay. Or sorry, one of my key pins. All right, so there, I'm gonna put you there. Did I lose a spring? I got one spring. Okay. The other spring may be in here somewhere. So you can see right there. So this only controls whether or not the sidebar falls in, just this one section right here. So the sidebar doesn't actually go into the plug at all. All right, let me get my drivers out before I do anything worse here. Oh, there's my other spring. Great. Sorry, I keep saying drivers. I'm meaning key pins. Get my key pins out here. And 2. So there's all my key pins. Line them all up there. Put my sidebar over here. And then this thing will pop out if I just give it a little bit of a nudge. Okay, so there you can see the gates. So there's the gates on that slider. And again, that just it sits right in here in the sidebar groove and slides back and forth. And then the sidebar itself has the notches right there. So those two nubs have to just be aligned with those notches for the sidebar to fall in. And then there's the housing with the sidebar groove. And then the plug itself, no milling. So I think I said I thought barrels were stuck in milling. They weren't. They just get caught on the edge there. So no match milling in that one. And then I'll just bring it close up here. So there is the pinning of this one. So it's got a mushroom, it's got two barrels, and it's got this kind of serrated-ish. It's kind of a mix between a spool and a serrated. Those serrations are pretty wide and deep there. So, and the front two pins are normal, and then I'm not sure why there's that ridge in the middle of the key pins on some of those, but it probably does something. But the key pins themselves, if you look, they are not normal Medeco key pins. They are not chisel tipped. They have no gating on them because there's no sidebar to fall into those. Okay, there we go. That is picked and gutted Medeco Bilevel.